Today I'm kicking off a personal every little bit counts challenge a little earlier than usual because it's typically held in August by Three Rivers Homestead, but my garden is booming right now and I didn't want any of this harvest to go to waste. Over the next couple weeks, I'll be sharing what's coming in from the garden, how I plan to use it, and the different ways I'm preserving it for later to help prevent waste, stock our pantry and freezer, and save money on future grocery trips. We'll also be doing some budget-friendly homemaking and trying a new fresh ground flour recipe in the middle of it all. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by a big harvest, I hope this encourages you that you don't have to do it all at once. Every bag you freeze, every pepper you dehydrate, and every jar you fill is one less thing you'll have to buy later, because every little bit really does count. Hi friend, my name is Sarah, and if you're new here, I am a mom of 5, and this is my little urban homestead where these cayenne peppers are definitely coming in hot, pun intended. And I grow these specifically for use in my elderberry syrups and my syrup kits that I have on my website. I am able to air dry these because we are not in a humid climate. However, this is just so much quicker and easier for me, especially since I have so many coming in. I don't want just so many laying around for days. And this really only took less than 24 hours for these to dry out at a 130-ish setting on my humidifier. I do have another large humidifier that I will be using in the coming weeks that I will show you, but for little projects, that tiny little one definitely does the trick for me. And like many gardeners, zucchinis are coming in. I have 3 different varieties that I will share with you shortly that I have been growing, and they are just stacking up. And as you saw, one of them had a yellow end, which means it's starting to go bad. So I really, really need to get to this preservation project. And since I'm in Northern California, I do have an earlier garden season than, say, Three Rivers in Ohio. So I am having to do the Every Bit Counts challenge now because I just have so much coming in. And like this Kazuki squash here, that I don't know if you can really see through those ginormous leaves, but they are so big. And I will show you that in just a moment. But this plant, all of this that goes up and over these trellises is one plant. It is vivacious. It just grows and grows and grows, and it has actually choked out my tiny little cucumbers on the right-hand side. So after I am done harvesting these baseball bats, I am going to clean up and actually get rid of some of the Kazuki squash plant. This I have never actually used these before in cooking. I grew them last year more for aesthetics, and this year I really want to try and utilize them. And from my research, it says to use them just like zucchini. So I plan on dehydrating them for soups over the winter, and I do plan on shredding them and seeing how they taste in bread recipes like you would normally do zucchini, maybe even kind of zoodle type things. But if you've used these before, leave me what you do with them in the comments down below. I would love to hear any tips or tricks or recipes that you may have, because as you can see, I really have them coming in abundance. And since filming this about a week ago, I have just as many more hanging from the top of the trellis now that are going to need to be picked very soon. I don't want to necessarily let them get that big again. So again, let me know if you have any tips or tricks or recipes for that squash. I'm really enjoying these in-ground beds that we did this year, and this is the first year for these, so they're not without problems because I am amending the soil, or at least really need to be amending the soil a bit more than I already have. But I have about 13 different tomato plants along this long line of trellises, and it's actually working out really well. I've been getting quite a bit. I shared in the last video a similar sized harvest, but these are more of the San Marzano tomatoes that I will be using for sauces and such. And so I will definitely be storing those a little bit different than this mushroom tomato here that I shared with you in the last video that I love. They're just delicious. And because I don't really feel like making salsa on this day, I am separating out my peppers. I am going to be putting hot peppers in with hot and mild with like, and just putting them in some freezer bags and putting them in the freezer until I am ready to use them. I do have one bag left from last year that I'll use first, and probably make some more pepper jelly and the salsa, and I might even use them in some other fashion in fermenting. And for me personally, I really like to put what I'm not going to be using of the tomatoes into freezer bags and putting them in the freezer for later use when I have time to can more, which I have shared with you previously. And these are my two favorite tomato tools. The Williams Sonoma knife that I'm using right now, it has a pointy end, and it just makes it so much easier to pierce the tomato skins. And then my little core here, I just love this. And I will link those tools down in the description box below for you if you were looking for something similar. They're pretty inexpensive, but I was able to get several bags put away, and then I did keep some for use again, fresh snacking and making fresh salads and everything that is always, always needed. So, as it normally happens in large families and on busy summer days, I had to postpone doing things with the squash until the next day. And on this day, I am just going to shred up a whole bunch of these. And unfortunately, my food processor is again broken. So the little attachment just came apart. We've tried super gluing it so many different times, and I'm really tired of buying pieces over and over again. I really wish quality was at a better standard, like, the good old days when they would make things. But this is one of my favorite ways to preserve zucchini, because I can put it in 2 cup increments into plastic bags and freeze it. And then when I want to make a quick bread or muffins or anything like that, I just pull it out, defrost super fast, and you can drain the water from it as well. So it's just super simple grab and go type thing. Now, I did leave some out to use for meals and things right now, but what I have done in the past is I have used a mandolin and sliced these and just dehydrate them, which I probably will end up doing soon, and using them over the winter, like in soups and things like that. Even stir fries, when you rehydrate them, it's just nice to have a little bit of added nutrition and save some money that way. So that's pretty much what I also plan on doing with the Kazuki squash, like I have mentioned beforehand. So I have a feeling I will be making a lot of soups and stews over the winter. And I'm thinking of doing some canning along those lines to help prep for that as well. I have mentioned how I wanted to do the Hawaiian rolls. So I'm doing the fresh ground flour Hawaiian rolls recipe, and I will link it in the description box below for you. I will say this one was a tad difficult for me. It took very long. I end up letting this dough rest for quite a while, and then I end up kneading it in the mixer for 15-20 minutes, and I do end up adding probably a half a cup to a cup more of fresh ground flour than the recipe called for. And that is because it was just so sticky, it was not workable. And even after the fact, when it started pulling away from the sides of the mixer finally, you will see that it's still very sticky. So just when you are doing recipes with fresh ground flour, it can be a little tricky, and knowing the consistency that you are wanting is definitely something that's going to come with experience and time. So please give yourself grace if you are new to this and you feel like nothing is coming out and working for you. So adding in the heated mixture, it was definitely super hot. I was actually a little concerned that I may have killed my yeast, but it worked out just fine. They rose wonderfully and beautifully. So that is something definitely to keep in mind. A microwave will probably be my next try. And I am just using up some of the fresh ground flour from a previous day before heading to the stuff that you just saw me grind. And that is absolutely okay. I don't think any of that is what the problem from the recipe was, but let me know in the comments if you think it is, and I will try it again. I do add the butter and I do add it in very, very slowly because of the eggs that are in there. I did not want to cook the eggs in there. That does not sound delicious whatsoever. But basically, once that gets incorporated, is when I just put the lid on this mixer and walk away, and I start my next project while that rests and allows the flour to absorb the liquid. Is I have a bunch of little cucumbers that I want to do a refrigerator pickle recipe just because there's not enough at this moment to really do a full canning recipe. Now, this is different than the one that I showed you recently when I was doing the pepperoncinis. Those are still pickling in my fridge right now, so I can't give you an update on that, but I am excited to try those. So for this one, it was for 2-quart jars, and I didn't realize that until halfway through. So I am doing the liquid as the full part of the recipe, and then I do switch to halving it for the herbs that I put into the jar. I did run out to the garden and grab another jalapeno, and I already have put 2 cloves of garlic at the bottom of this jar. And then, like I said, I am having the recipe, and this will, of course, be in the description box below for you. I did swap out fresh dill for my dried dill, so I kind of just eyeball that because my fresh dill outside is now very, very dry and crispy because it's hot. And I did run out to the garden again and grab a grape leaf. I think next time I would either put it on the bottom or I would just put it on the top. Never really used one before to help keep things crispy. So, and by crispy, I mean crunchy. So please let me know in the comments below if you use it, where do you put them? And does it work for you? Let me know that. I've never tried it before. I definitely feel like I should have used a ladle for this, and I also know that I need to have better cucumber packing skills. So maybe by the end of this gardening season, I will have some better skills because I just kept trying and trying and trying, and I couldn't get it all to go underneath, which is why I said I think next time I will put the leaf on top. Now you can see the bread dough is finally starting to pull away from the walls of the mixer, which generally means it's pretty done being kneaded. And so I always just go ahead and spray the bowl and spray the counter. On this day, I had to go get a different oil since it was empty. And I always put the oil on my hands before grabbing it, just so that it doesn't stick. I don't know what it is about dough sticking to my hands. It's just, it's a pet peeve. I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. But it is still super sticky. So I'm glad that I did the extra oil on it this day before putting it into the bowl to rise. The recipe said that this takes about an hour and a half to 3 hours to rise. In my experience in my warm kitchen, it took about an hour, so typical for other bread recipes for me, so I would gauge it on that. And as you can see, it was still super sticky to the bowl, but it, like I said, it still came out really well, and it was pretty malleable and easy to work with. I don't think I had any problems shaping it. As you can see, it did render me about 15 decent sized rolls. I could have gotten more, I could have gotten less, just depending on the size that you really wanted to make. And I think they came out a good size. This is them after they have been rising. And unfortunately, I had some company come over and we ended up chatting, and I forgot to turn the camera back on when these came out of the oven. I did do butter on top of them. And so this is like late that night when I got home from a meeting. And so I apologize for not getting great footage. But that said, they were delicious. And I did need to keep cooking them in the middle. The middle buns did not come out completely cooked. So just keep that in mind if you do decide to use this recipe. So thanks so much for spending a couple days with me. We may not have gotten through everything, but that's exactly what the Every Little Bit Counts challenge is all about. Little by little, we're filling the pantry, stocking the freezer, and making the most of what God has provided instead of letting it go to waste. I still have those giant kuzuki squashes waiting for me, plenty more tomatoes, peppers, and cucumbers to preserve, and my green beans are just starting to come in as well. So there's definitely more preserving ahead. I'll be sharing all of that over the next couple of weeks, along with more budget-friendly homemaking and fresh ground flour recipes. If you're joining the challenge this summer too, I'd love to hear what you're preserving right now. Let me know down in the comments, and if you enjoyed coming along today, don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video, friends. Until then, remember, every little bit really does count.